What's up, everybody? Simon Scribe back with you. I'm making this video to kind of capture my thoughts on, let's talk about Eneavor from My Hero Academia.
The battlefield. I bet he'll do a press conference soon. Can't wait to see his pathetic face. After so long, I get to watch him break. Enji, Mom, Fuyumi, not
episodes, this is kind of covering, spoiler alert, but this, as I'm recording this is weeks after the episode premiered, and I watched dub, so even if you're sub, you're weeks ahead of that. So I believe it was the Hellish Todoroki Family Part 2, and the next one, which I guess had the most content, is how not to put the wrong way to put out a fire. And the episode, especially the latter episode, the theme that seemed to keep coming back was accountability. Whereas in anime, it is quite normal, quite a trope, and it's one of my favorites, is the subject of redemption. And in the Hellish Todoroki Family episode last season, I made a video like this, and the theme was that Eneavor kept saying was atonement, which is kind of akin to, I suppose, a little redemption. And if you haven't seen that video, I might link it at the end of this one. But so Eneavor has a rough family by his doing, by his own mission. So the events that take place in these episodes, again, spoiler, but I'm assuming if you watch this that you're already caught up, or at least have watched those episodes, that the villain named Dabi is actually his eldest son, Toya. Now, I've actually ruined that part, that I spoiled myself on that a year or two ago when I made the first video. I was doing some research, trying to get some images, and I stumbled on some popular Google search terms, and I saw a couple manga panels that didn't say that Dabi was Eneavor's son, but it made it pretty clear. And I said, that's Dabi. And then my sister just kind of spoiled it for me on accident. So I knew for a while that that was Eneavor's son, but it finally came out, and in the episode, Dabi not only confronts Eneavor with that he is Toya, but he also tells the whole world this, and basically to turn the public against Eneavor, who is the #1 hero. Now, Eneavor has been trying to mend things with his family. We kind of saw that throughout the show, especially after he becomes #1, after All Might is forced to retire, and he finally got what he wanted, and then realized the sacrifices that that accompanied that, the choice they made, the choices of arranged marriages, trying to make a child, what she did, Todoroki, the child that had both his and his wife's quirk, to surpass All Might, which at this point becomes moot, and then realize that you kind of fractured your family in the process. And whenever he is faced with that, Eneavor freezes. We kind of see in the last season, we finally, when Deku and Bakugo travel with him to kind of shadow him, we kind of see that Eneavor really is about that action. He really has earned that title. But when faced with danger surrounding his children, he freezes up. We saw that with Natsu in the last season, and we see it again when he's faced with Dabi, now knowing that as Toya, and knowing how he has failed him. He already believed he failed him already, by him apparently dying years prior, but faced with him face to face again, he freezes again. So the part that kind of got me was when Eneavor's in the hospital, he's reminiscing this, and his family comes to see him, and it's Eneavor's estranged wife that kind of breaks through, because Eneavor is in no shape to fight. He's in no shape, to do much of anything. He's getting yelled at outside by the public, who's lost all kind of confidence and trust in him. And his wife comes in after hearing him just kind of pile on and blame himself over and over for his mistakes. And she says, "You're not the only one that failed our son." And I think that's how the episode begins. And the episode kind of is a largely flashbacks to give us the backstory that we needed. There's still some more backstory that I want, but we kind of saw a lot of the neglect, the abuse, and the trauma that really kind of fractured the family. So, like I said before, the theme seemed to be accountability. Endeavor first, because no matter how you look at it, we all kind of believe that Endeavor deserves the lion's share of the blame, but he's taking that blame. Now, I believe that he's actually taken too much, because if you take on so much that you are left paralyzed, that is not helpful for you or anyone else. But when, and this is kind of my thoughts, when the burden is divided and is split up, and people kind of get a little triggered here because you want to blame Endeavor solely, and you may kind of have realization that Dobby, despite the childhood, blames it. Despite his upbringing, Dobby is still responsible for the choices he is currently making. And then when the episode, as the episode progresses, you kind of see more people shouldering the burden with Endeavor, which allows him to take action. Because it's actually his wife who kind of encourages him, tells him that you're the one that's going to have to, stand against Toya, our son. Which I feel from that moment, because I've listened to a lot of people react and how difficult, because often when we see these situations, we put ourselves in these situations. We put ourselves, we kind of see how we would feel if we were faced with a similar situation or similar circumstance. Excuse me. But what I see almost everyone doing is we like to put ourselves in the place of either the one who was victimized or the Avenger situation. So in this one, you're kind of imagine yourself as either Todoroki or his older brother Natsu. Natsu being the one who's least likely to forgive, although we kind of see that he kind of wants to as well. But he's the, well, no, sorry. Dobby is the least likely to forgive. But we see Natsu, I can't remember if he's second eldest or the third, but Natsu is kind of the one to say, I can't forgive you. Todoroki's kind of halfway there. He's kind of halfway between his brother and sister. And we kind of put ourselves in that category. Could you forgive somebody who did what Endeavor did? Or could you forgive someone who was abusive, who was neglectful, who brought all kind of pain in your life? And we kind of reflect to see, could you forgive someone like that? But, and again, this might anger some people. I think that it can be healthy to also, even for a moment, put yourself in the one who did the offense. You may never have been a bad husband or father, but I think it could be humbling to kind of realize that you have let someone down, and you might be someone's villain. Not to this extreme, but you have failed somebody in something, and if you didn't, you will in the future. And not that forgiveness is owed, because often we think of ourselves as having to do the forgiving. And I don't want to, come up here and talk about cheap grace, but not that it's easy to forgive, but we put ourselves all in the position that the party that has been wrong, and never the one who has did the wrongdoing. What will you do if you are the one who did the wrong? Uh, and that can only go as far as the people who you wrong will allow it to go. If it, and so he has to make right with all his children and his wife. Uh, where that's actually going to lead, which is kind of why I am more invested in his storyline than at the moment All Might's, even kind of more than Deku's, because it's kind of a real scenario of like, okay, I'm running out of daylight, so I'm going to wrap this up. Um, I like how the show kind of showing, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, that if we kind of bury each other's burdens, like even if you yourself didn't do anything wrong, because like the story depicted, you can say Eneavor had done wrong, even his wife, Dobby certainly, but even some of the his kids were taking kind of responsibility, Natsu being one of them, which I didn't believe that he was really at fault for anything, but what it showed of when someone already took that first step of saying, this is on me, I believe it allowed others to kind of follow suit and say that I take part in this as well. And more will come into it. People like the rest of the children who I believe were, who, in my opinion, were innocent, would try to, again, bury like Eneavor's burden, because that's not just doing the good thing. I believe that is one of the most beneficial thing, because propping him up is also benefits everyone else. Counterwise, in the storyline, we see a lot of people throw, I won't say stones, but they literally throw a bottle at him a few episodes later, and making him like the image of the one to place the blame on. But he can only take that blame when he already has taken the accountability, and to be fair, he is being blamed for more than his fair share. But I see this as the better example, because it shows someone who is taking responsibility for his actions. It also somebody who is actually doing something about it, and even of things that he is not personally at fault. It is showing people moving on, because we saw that Eneavor was so guilt-ridden that he was left paralyzed, which is helpful to no one. You feel there is a certain thing where you feel, you allow yourself to feel the shame, but you do not allow yourself to be wrapped up in it to the point that it is pure bondage. That is not the right way to go. You repent, you turn, and you move forward. Moving forward, like my boy Aaron Yeager does. Moving forward, but not this kind of moving forward. I don't get too preachy. Maybe I do. But that's my thoughts on the episode and this arc in general. Tell me your thing. So that's my thoughts on the episode or the arc in general. Tell me what you think about Eneavor's character or in the arc. If you were the one that did something wrong, what do you believe your next course of action would be? Alright, just subscribe. Thank you.
After I killed Toya, I couldn't go back. The only thing I knew how to focus on was molding Shoto into the hero I could never be myself.
The more domineering you were, the harder it was to look at you. And whenever I looked at my children, it was your eyes I saw staring back at me.
Even though I knew we were falling apart, I was too scared to get to the bottom of our pain. So I tried to keep up appearances, ignoring the truth.
You're the one who put us on this path, and I know you're to blame. But if I'd been able to knock some sense into Toya before he ran off to the mountain, he wouldn't have turned into Dobby, and things might have been different between me and Shoto.
The responsibility is not yours to bear alone. Your heart may be broken, but we're going to help you put it back together.
Is it too good to be true? I want this so much, but don't know if I can trust you. My mind's racing fast, trying to find the red flags I'm used to.